Hello and welcome to another edition of my Become Unstoppable series. And as usual, I have an amazing guest for you. But before I do that, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Julie Fitzpatrick and I'm the founder of Millieside Therapy and Coaching. And my passion really is supporting you stressed out individuals to help you find your confidence, find your purpose and passion so that you can become unstoppable. And I work with clients on a one-to-one basis. And I'm just launched my group program, which is called Your Breakthrough, to take you from stress, lack of confidence to serenity and clarity. So if you want to find out more, please contact me and I can give you all the information that you need. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to my guest, Rob. Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm fine, Julie. Yourself this lovely morning?
I'm very good. Thank you, my lovely. So do you want to just introduce yourself for the guests so they know who you are and what it is you do?
Yeah, obviously, my name's Rob. I run a company called Digital Solutions, and we are software and mobile app developers.
Amazing. And we'll find out a little bit more about that in a while. But mainly before I forget, really, Rob, because, my mind's not always as it could be. I would like you to share with us my very famous question. What does being unstoppable mean to you?
That means to me, I know inside me this belief that I can achieve anything if I put my mind to it. What I don't let people tell me I can't. I have to try it myself. Sometimes I may fail doing it, but I'll make sure it's me doing it and not someone else giving me their beliefs and holding me back because of what they think I can't do. No one can tell me I can't. There's only can in
I
my world.
love that. I love that. That is amazing. Now, I'm guessing, though, that your determination and the beliefs that you've achieved over this time are a lot to do with what you've had to kind of endure, I guess, growing up in life, which is why, everyone knows I only have people on here who have got a story to tell where they've, the ups and downs of life and what they've had to go through to get where they are now. In your case, being a father, a husband, and obviously a successful business owner. But it hasn't always been like that for you. So would you like to give us a little bit of an overview on your life? So if we just go back, first of all, to your childhood, what was that like for you growing up?
See, childhood now is a bit different. Being a black guy in the 70s was a bit different, I must admit. When I started, for instance, high school, there was only 4 black people in the whole school. Okay, so it was definitely different. Now, one of the things I found very early was that I was told a lot of times that I can't and you won't achieve this and you shouldn't do that. Now, I think with me, I love science and I love maths. I'm terrible at English. I mean, English to me is a foreign language. So at school, I was always being told I was stupid because my spelling is, I'll use the word atrocious. I then found out when I was older that I was dyslexic. That doesn't help. But back in the 70s, you weren't dyslexic, you were stupid.
Yeah.
And instead of them concentrating on what I was good at, being the maths and physics and sciences, they would concentrate on things I was bad at. And I was always being told that I couldn't achieve things. I think that was the things. And as I got older, I also used to stutter as well. So at school, I didn't speak. I had to learn not to stutter. And as I got older, I then found out I also had ADHD, which again, when you were younger, I was just called naughty. I just can't. Even now, I can't stay still. You'll notice that I'm struggling. I'm still moving around now to stay still. So, and if it wasn't been for my mum, again, I come from a small town, Luton, lived on a council estate. Again, was destined to be. I think I was told at school, unemployed or in prison was my 2 options when I left school.
Nice.
So they weren't very nice. There was only one teacher at school. It was my history teacher who told me that I should read what I want to read and not what I'm told to read. And that one thing there, changed my outlook on life. All of a sudden, I started reading science fiction books. You may see my things. And that made me realize that if you enjoy doing something, you're good at it. I mean, I read a lot of books. I still wouldn't read out loud. I still struggle now to read out loud. But it made me realize out there that there's more to what I was told I could do, and it makes a huge difference. So for me, it was the point of eventually, I think by the time I'd left school, inside my mind, I could achieve anything. That was the theory, but putting that into practice when you're 16, let's just say there was
Yeah.
a lot of ups and downs after leaving school.
Okay.
I mean, I could not wait to leave school. In fact, I didn't go to school my last year. I just didn't go.
And this is the thing, Rob, isn't it? And I think luckily now there are diagnoses for ADHD, dyslexia and things like that. So you can get help and support. But like you say, back in the day, I mean, I went to school in the 70s. And if I'm honest, I think there was 2 Black people maybe in my year. So yeah, I can get why that would have felt, really that you were an odd one out, I guess. And that's the thing, right? When you mentioned belief straight up, didn't you? That my belief was I can do anything I want to do. But actually, when we grow up, like between 0 and 7 is when we create our main belief system. And when you're in school and in that environment, then where you feel different, then that can go one of 2 ways. It can be that you can't connect, and we all need to have that connection. But it sounds like you kind of went the other way in the sense that it was like, no, I'm going to do this. And it gave you that extra grit and determination that maybe the white kids in the school never had.
Yeah, I mean, the strange thing was, if you go and talk to people I was at school with, there would have been, my friends consisted of about 20 of us. And what everyone would tell you was, even though I was one at the back of the smallest, I was in control. I am very good at convincing people to do things at a young age. And I was told that by headmaster. He would call me in on many occasions telling me, I know you're behind this, Steadman. I just can't prove it. I goes, why is that? He goes, because that lot would jump off a cliff if you told him to. I goes, I don't tell him, I ask him. He goes, pardon? I goes, I never tell anyone anything. I just put suggestions their ways in a certain way. And so again, as a young age, I realized what I was very good at was I wasn't the biggest and the strongest, but I was very good at talking to people and helping people. I would help my friends do maths all the time. They would ridicule my English. I wouldn't really care about that. But when they struggled at something, I was more than happy even then to sit down with them and show them how, where, and when, and why. And I think that was the key. And I just
that's quite interesting, isn't it? Given what you do now, which we'll talk about in a moment. But so when you left school, so you say you didn't finish school. So how old was you when you left school?
I didn't not finish school. I didn't go to school in the last year. I did my exams. I just didn't go to school. I just didn't want. I was too busy drinking and stuff. It was pretty wild at 16. All of us would go to a friend's house in the morning and spend all day there drinking. It was quite. We were quite out. We were technically out of control, I must admit, at that age. So when we left school, that's why I was told I wouldn't amount to much. But I was given an option by my mum, and the option was either get a job or go to college. I didn't want to do either or with that. So I did a year at tech college, which is quite interesting, learning all bits and pieces. I then got a job as a trainee draftsman. So I went from being a kid at school who wouldn't get a job to what was then called a white collar job, working in an office, which is quite interesting. But one of the things I found out about that job which in the strangest one was, I started there about 1980, I think it's 88, 89. And the owner of the place recognized my face from somewhere. He then told me, after going through the records, that when my mum first moved to the UK in 1961, the first job she got was working in the factory where I had my first job, which was quite strange. So,
wow.
So yeah. And then again there, I did that job for a while, didn't like it, didn't want to work in an office. Was working weekends with my friends as a trainee electrician, again from one job to the next. Didn't like that either because it's outside in the cold. I then went for a job and I convinced the company I was a tool maker. This is about 18, 19. I was still young, so I went from job to job quickly. And the only thing I could make was a nut and bolt, and I did it for them, and they gave me a job as that. Didn't like that either. So I left there. And I was at home again, unemployed, with my mum telling me I had to get a job. So there was 2 jobs available. One I applied for was packing peanuts into bags. I thought, you know what, get a job, get some money, go to the pub, whatever. Mum said to me, no, you've got to get a proper job. And she applied for me as a job as a draftsman for a company called Oscar Faber that were building service consultants. So I said I wasn't going to that interview. Wasn't going to go to it. There's no point, not to get the job. Went for the job at the peanut place on Monday. Got a letter on the Wednesday saying, I remember this one, that I wasn't suitable, which I must admit, it's about as low as you can get when you're thinking you can do anything.
And you can't get a job in a factory.
Yeah, get a factory. So Mum said to me, get your suit on, go for the interviews at Albans for this job. I went, listen, Mum, no offense, but it ain't going to happen. So after me arguing my mum for a while, let's just say I lost that battle. So I went for the interview. When I got there, it was a surreal one. The guy's got a CV that's not mine. He said to me, I've got a CV here, Robert. According to this, he goes, you're 55 years old and you're a qualified engineer. I looked at him and said, no, I'm a trainee draftsman and I do a bit of sparky work. And he said to me, do you know what we do here? And I said, can I be honest? No, I've got no idea what you do. I just want a job. And he goes, how do you fancy being an engineer? And I said, what's an engineer do? Literally, okay, what's an engineer do? He goes to me, well, you design buildings and you get to go around the country and stuff, around the world and survey buildings. I goes, that sounds interesting. Okay, literally, that sounds interesting. And he goes to me, can you start Monday? I said yes. And that was then my career led into being an engineer. And I love that. I did that for 17 years.
And what did your mum say when you got home? And when you guess what?
She just said to me, I told you so. That's when she said to me once, it was one of these comments she made to me, which on hindsight makes sense. She said to me, if you reach for the stars, you may not get there, but at least you'll get to the moon. What that means is if you don't try, you're never going to know. But if you do try, you may not get to where you want to go, but you're going to be a lot further than where you are right now, sitting on your bum, doing bugger all. So it's things like that.
Your mum sounds like a very wise lady. Now, I'm guessing a lot of that to do with the fact that because where was your mum from? Because you said she kind of migrated.
She from Jamaica, Windrush, Jamaica.
Oh, she was a Windrush.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's by default, isn't it, actually, that when you come from another country, because you see this a lot with, I suppose the phrase can be like pushy parents, can't it? But a lot of them, a lot of successful families that have immigrated, is that the right way to say it? Immigrated, they do push their children, don't they? Because like you said at the beginning, you're kind of against it to start with because you're maybe the minority and you have to, it's in some sense, it's like where women had to start penetrating men's jobs and roles. You had to be twice as good as the men just to be on a par with them. So was it kind of similar like to that to you?
You
know what I mean?
What we learned, the thing about my mum was, was she spent her life working as a seamstress in a factory. Now, she died a few years back. When she died, we found out she's actually a qualified teacher. What happened was, though, when she came to the UK, even though it was a UK recognised degree, they wouldn't let her teach. So she had 2 choices. It was either just get a job doing something or be unemployed. So she ended up, and as we knew at the time, she ended up basically being a seamstress and making clothes at a place called Eastex in Luton. And that's when I said to her, she used to say to me, if you want to get on in life, you've got to be twice as good as the people around you. Because when you go for that door, she goes, what they don't see, she goes, they don't see you. What they see is a young black man from Luton. She goes, being from Luton was bad enough in the world. But she goes, being a young black guy as well, you had the 2 together. And people do look at you differently. I mean, I can give you an idea of how people look at you when you get on I would get on the train in my suit and people sit next to me. If I was going to a construction site and I was best as a builder, the same people who sat next to me yesterday wouldn't sit next to me today unless the train was packed. People look at you a certain way and make an assumption on what they think you're from and things. So when people talk to me now, people say to me, you're lucky, you obviously come from a middle-class family. I goes, don't look at me now and judge me on how you think I am. I goes, that's just your perception of what you want to believe I'm like. I said, that's not my background at all. I've got no qualms at all in telling people I come from Luton. I'm proud. I'm proud that I was able to come from a place where people think is terrible and exceeded, my expectations and stuff and what they think of the place,
Yeah, so you should be proud of it, because it's nothing, it's nothing to be ashamed of. But the other thing is, because of all the things that you went through, like you say, being, one of the only black kids in school, living in Luton, apparently, but the fact that you had your ADHD, you had your dyslexia, so you had so many things that were kind of barriers, or could have been barriers, and your life could have been so different, couldn't it, if you hadn't have had, probably, I guess, the backing from your mum saying, no, I'm not having it, you've got to get off your ass and you've got to go and do something. If she had been a different personality, then I wonder where you might have been, because you do need that push, don't you, to push you, because if we don't push ourselves outside of our comfort zone
it's
every
not
now and
just
again, at least, nothing's going to change, is it?
it's not just that, Julie. It's the people you surround yourself with. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
I can safely say I've known a lot of people, and my best friends are still my best friends. I'm now 56. I've known my best friends for over 50 years. Put it
Yeah,
that way.
same.
Okay. So the thing to me is that's what it's about. And my best friends, I'd always say to them, it doesn't matter what people tell you, it's what you want to do. I've always told my friends that. I says, don't, and they're the same. If you were feeling down one day, what's that term? A friend is someone who bails you out of prison. A good friend is the one sitting next to you. If that makes sense, okay? They're the ones that will go with you and encourage you to do things, whether it's right or wrong, but they're always there to help you and push you forward. And in life, what I've always found is if you can find the right friends and the right people as well, that helps. I mean, if you surround yourself with people that are always telling you can't, you won't. It's simple as that.
Exactly. It's
Life
simple.
is
It's absolutely 100%. And that's exactly the point I teach my clients as well. It's about, everything starts from the language we use, right? And I'm not talking about swearing. I'm talking about the words, like you say, I can't, I'll never be able to do that. It's always for other people. It's not for me. I've never been able to do that. And it's like, no, just stop with the language, because if you start changing your language, you start changing your life, you start changing your belief systems. And that's what, I mean, I was guilty of it as well, if I'm honest. I wouldn't say I was a hugely negative person, but my language like that could be. And most of the time I'm okay. But even at the weekend just gone, I got picked up by my son and my husband, actually, by saying something. And I'm like, all right. Sometimes I feel like, because I'm saying this to people all day long, and I have to remind myself, sometimes it can be exhausting, can't it? I always pick people up for using the word trying. And sometimes I go, I'm never going to use the word try, but I just haven't got the energy to find another word right now. But it's being conscious of knowing that you don't try, do you? Try is a bit like, well, I'm going to try and lose weight, or I'm going to try and revise for that exam. No, that's just like wishy-washy, right? You're gonna try. You're gonna get that job. You're gonna pass that exam. It's about really, really using your language in a positive way, because that triggers your imagination. And if we're triggering our imagination in a negative way with that negative self-talk, then we're going to just draw more negativity, right? We just want to be on that higher vibration so that we're drawing positivity. So changing your language can make a huge difference, which I think you would agree with, right?
Oh yeah. No, definitely changing language can help. I mean, if you roll forward when I started engineering into I must have been about, I say 11 or 12 years into engineering at the company I was with. And I was now quite high up in the company. And at that point, I thought I was the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, literally, I got all the best jobs. And then one day, the MD secretary says something to me that I would use the terms, not the stuff out of me. Again, at this company, there was 800 engineers. I was the only black engineer in the company, put it that way. The only one.
Really?
Yeah. And she told me, quote her words, the company had a quota and you filled it, was her precise words to me. I didn't go to work for a week. Literally, I lied in bed, I refused to get up, wouldn't go in, okay. And then one of my bosses got on the phone and started shouting at me to come into the office. And eventually I got up and come in. She'd been sacked by this point in time. And he sat me down and goes, listen, Robert, let me explain something to you. He says, you're a pain in the ass. He goes, you're the most arrogant engineer we got here. He goes, you cause us the most problems in the company. We get the most complaints about you from the builders and stuff. He goes, but the clients love you. He goes, if you was a token black guy, trust me, he said, we wouldn't give you blue chip jobs because we'd lose them all because of the way you are as a person. He goes, the only reason why you get them, he said, is because you're the best person for the job. Okay, so it took to go down to come up again. And that's the thing. And the thing about life is, as I said, I didn't listen to my own lesson. I should have ignored her completely and done what I wanted to do. But unfortunately, at that point, when someone tells you that, it's not, it's hard to basically, and when you look around, do you know what? That's a point. I'm the only black guy here. This is outrageous and stuff. And then that's when you suddenly think to yourself, well, maybe it's true. You know, maybe it's true and stuff. And so life.
I mean, they didn't have a very big quota. If you was only one, though, their quota was pretty poor, wasn't it? If you got a quota, you would think there would have been more than one of you.
It is okay, but I think it's like one of my friends runs a company. He was plumbers, and he said someone said to him, "You don't employ enough black people." And he said, if I can't find a black plumber, what do I do? Not employ someone. It's a statement he made to someone. It's true. He goes, you can't do certain things. Okay, if they're not there, you can't employ them. But again, it's looking at life and how you look at people. I took that completely the wrong way and went completely into that. That's and also I found out at the same time that I suffer from depression. So not knowing that, having that happen to you and kick into gear, it can knock you. So there's lots of things in life you've got to overcome. And it's like.
So Rob, when they told you that she told you that you were just a token, and obviously you took it badly, but can you still remember how you felt in your body as well? How that really mentally and physically reacted?
I don't cry. I never cry, and I cried. I don't cry. I cried, and that is an absolute nightmare. You feel like there's you're worthless. There's no point going out. I was just lie in bed all day and do bugger all. And what's that term? It literally kicks the stuffing out of you. Okay,
but this is the thing, though, right? That situation, like you said, when you look back on it now, and you felt probably as strong about yourself as you do now, you would have gone to whatever and got on with it and water off the duck's back, right? But the problem is, back then, and maybe even there's elements in your life now, someone might say something or do something and it will trigger you. And that trigger will be going back to your childhood probably, and the fact that you suffer from depression, that's still something that will still be things that have been you're holding from your childhood. And that's where we need to get to uncover those limiting beliefs probably, or if feelings and emotions that you hold in your body, because depression is really about having that lack of connection, and that would kind of fit to a point with the very brief overview we've had of your life so far, that you felt different, right? So there's only a few main root causes, right? Root beliefs. I felt different, so I didn't get that connection. I felt unlovable, or I'm not good enough. And they're the main ones, right? There's a few other outsider ones of those, but they're the real root causes. And being different is a huge one, because being different, you definitely felt different because you was an outsider in the school, right? Because you were black and there weren't many black people there. And maybe you were bullied. I don't know. We haven't really talked about that, but your way of dealing with it was becoming this person who, I'm not saying it was a wrong person to become, but that's when we can end up, maybe you get the comedian, someone who's always been a comedian at school because it's their way of being accepted, or, you had your way of getting people to do things, right? That was your superpower. That was you overcoming being different, right? And trying to find that connection. Oh
no, Julie, I did tell jokes as well.
There you go.
It's the problem is also I believe I'm funny as well. That doesn't help at all in the things. But again, I was bullied. I was bullied from about 11 to 13 by the same boy nearly every day who was 2 years older than me at school. And it didn't get to the point to when I suddenly realized I was bigger than him that I actually fought back. And that again changed me as a person, because all of a sudden I went from being bullied to beating up the bully. That again literally changed the outlook on life of who I thought I was. And it's things like that, like with the, oddly enough, I look back on being told I was a token as a good thing, because what it did was it reinforced how good I was. If that makes sense.
It's almost like a superpower, isn't it? You can go either way. It can destroy you, or it can make you the stronger person. And that's luckily the route that you've gone down over time. Have you got brothers and sisters?
I've got 2 younger brothers.
So how did they find life then? Are they like you, like really super successful and go, or have they got kind of different
Oh no, my
personalities?
brothers are completely different to me. They're more laid back. I took the brunt of most of the crap when he was younger. And as they went to school, like my brother would tell you, he was never bullied. Never at school, because they knew he was my brother. So literally he said to me, no one went near him at school. They wouldn't go near him at school.
You left.
Yeah, even after I left, no, they wouldn't. My brother said I left behind. It was more of an aura. He's quite surprised, and all my friends as well. If you see them all, my friends were like boxers. They did martial arts and all sorts of things. So they were quite, they
So
were.
you were smart with the people that you made friends with, then, right? Not the little weakling from the library.
Basically, yes. All I'd say about my friends was even if you talk to Avantria about this as well, she would say to you, all Robert's friends are like him. They all have a self-belief that they're the best of the best. We do. We all have it. We all. Sometimes it can be too far.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It is. If you talk to my friends about, one of my best friends, Andrew. Andrew's not the best looking guy in the world. But even to today, he still believes he's better looking than Richard Gere. That's self-belief. Trust me. I mean, it'll go out and go, I can't understand. He goes, the girls, hold on, what's he got I haven't? And they look at him and go, well, they're quite good looking. And he'll go, but I'm good looking. That's
amazing, right?
And that's what my friends, that's what they're like. They all have this belief that it doesn't matter what they do. If you took my brother, for instance, my brother believes he's the best sportsman in the world. Not a particular sport, any sport. I mean, literally any sport. If you said to him, name a sport, and you go ice skating, he'd say to you, if I could ice skate, I'd be the best ice skater in the world. Because he does. He believes that. He truly believes if he put his mind to it, he could do it. And
are they successful in their careers?
My younger brother, no, not very successful. He went down the wrong path for way too many years. Right. And my middle brother is a fireman.
Okay.
But the strange thing is, he has a self-belief, but he's got no drive. My middle brother really has no drive. He is the most laid-back person in the world. He's a fireman. He drives a fire engine. And even his friends say to me, Robert, does he actually get up to drive the fire engine? Is that laid back about life? Yeah. When the alarm goes off, he'll get up, just doing their hair, gonna go and get a quick sandwich. Yeah. But it is that self-belief. And I think with people, most people are born with self-belief. Everyone, if you look at any child will say to you when they're younger, what do you be when they're older? And they'll say things like, I want to be a pilot, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be this. And bit by bit, that's chipped off you.
Yeah. Although their imagination at that point will be dependent on what they're around, won't it? Right. So their ideas might be quite small depending on the people they're around, but you're right. And what I teach in my webinar, my Power of Your Imagination webinar, actually, it's about when we're kids, we do have this wonderful imagination, right? Now, you've got kids, right? You've probably been through this when you've got them the best Christmas present ever, right? And it's all wrapped up in this big box. And it's a thing that they've wanted for a long time, right? And you're so excited to watch them open it. They open it with excitement, open the box, throw the toy to one side and play in the box. And you're like, right? And then you watch them And then they just have the most amazing time, don't they, playing with that box? But if you want to really find out how powerful our imagination is, you do want to watch kids play. You know, you've done it yourself. I played with dolls because I was a girl and that's what girls did, right? I had shops. We had all these imaginary shops, all the, all sorts of things. You didn't have it. You might have a few cardboard boxes or something, but you just imagined this amazing world. Yet, as we go through school, we have that drummed out of us because that's daydreaming, isn't it? Pay attention, Rob. Stop daydreaming. But no, Rob was probably in another little world having an amazing time using your imagination, right? But it's like you say, chipped away. And when we get to adulthood, we've forgotten how to use it. Well, no, that's a lie. We haven't forgotten how to use it. We're using it really, really, really poorly because we're stressed, we're anxious, we're fearful, oh my God, I'm just going to die if I go and do that presentation. Oh my God, it's just going to be terrible. Oh my God, there's a spider over there. Right? That is us using our imagination in a really negative way because that's all we're good at now. But imagine if you knew how to calm your mind, you knew how to train your mind, because that all comes down to the way you talk to yourself. That comes down to really working on your belief system and not allowing your old limiting beliefs pull you back every time. So consciously you can go, I'm amazing. But if your subconscious doesn't agree with you, it will just drag you back. And we're running our lives on old software. And you would appreciate this analogy, Rob, being an engineer and computer website designer, right? What happens is when you've got a computer and you're running on old software, what happens?
It's going to crash.
It crashes. It gets slow. It gets sluggish. You get frustrated, don't you? So what do? You upgrade it, right? So why do we not do that with our old limiting beliefs? Because if you're living your life potentially on a belief that you created when you was 5 years of age, and not only were you only 5, you actually didn't have any logic either because your brains are not developed enough, right? And you're running your life on a belief that you created when you was 5 years old. Who does that?
Well, the thing
well,
is,
the answer is most people.
Most people do. What most people don't do is invest in themselves. What was this? When I found out I was suffering from depression, I spoke to my company and they paid for me to get a counselor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they called someone in to do a survey of the company and they asked you certain questions on this list. And apparently, I think the term the guy used with me was on the verge of going postal, is what he said to them. So they said that it goes on the outside, he looks really happy. He goes, he is very, very angry on the inside, extremely angry.
Oh, really?
I had a very short fuse. I've always had a short fuse with me. So from that got me the counsel I needed to get past it all. Because at that point, I suppose there was, you sort of like, you look on the outside and everyone thinks everything's okay, but on the inside it's turmoil. And most of us need that. And it's like a reset button. Like you said, for your PC, you get a reset, you get to look back at what the issues are. You get to then overcome those issues. And then in the future, when it happens again, because things happen again, you're in a better position to understand why it's happening and control it. If you don't get the help, you're going to keep going backwards. You'll take one step forward and then one backwards, one forward, one backwards.
So it slowly gets worse.
Yeah.
It slowly gets worse then. Yeah, because you're layering on the crapness, if that's the word. Right? And it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it explodes, right? And that's why I love working with the subconscious mind, right? Because I'm not knocking counselling, because I am actually a trained counsellor as it happens, but I don't work like that with my clients now, because we need to tap into your subconscious, because that is where all the gold is, right? And if you think about it, right, 5% of our mind is conscious, 95 is subconscious, and our whole body is our subconscious, right? So we hold our subconscious mind in all of our body. That's why we suffer sometimes with physical conditions, because it's where we haven't been able to release the emotions, release the feelings. So it's stored. So it can manifest in psychological or physical conditions, or a combination of both if you're unlucky, right? But the thing is, like stress, for example, I would have said back in the day, I have had stressful times, but I probably would go, I'm not stressed. I don't do stressed, but I did. But at the time of it, you'd go, well, I don't feel stressed. And then afterwards you go, oh, what's all that pain in my neck? I used to really suffer from pain from my shoulders. I still do sometimes, but I know what it is now, so I can release it. But I used to suffer a lot with my lower back. And it's only over the last year or so, when I've been doing all this extra work about understanding all of this, I thought that's where I held my stress, the pain in my back. And that's what happens. Arthritis, autoimmune diseases, skin conditions, all that kind of thing is where we're holding these negative feelings and emotions. So when you potentially feeling depressed, your body will react because it's going back to a memory of how you felt back then. And it's about going to the root of it, uncovering it and eradicating it, so that you don't have to keep dealing with it, because you're changing your neuro pathways. So you are literally resetting and rebooting your brain, because you're going, and then it starts reforming, and the neuro pathways will change, and that's when you start remembering things that you never remembered before, and you start reacting differently because you've cleared some of those old blockages, and now you're rewiring. And it's
as you say that, Julie, just see how my mind works. When I got into reading science fiction books and getting really heavy into science fiction, as you mentioned the word 95% of the subconscious, the word id come to my mind, and the film Forbidden Planet, which is exactly about how your mind can work and manifest things to do things, but in a more physical way.
Okay.
So if anyone watched the Forbidden Planet, that's the whole book's about how your subconscious works. And so that's what I was reading from like 14 years old. So all of a sudden, my reading level went from reading like Stig of a Dump to literally one day I was reading Stig of a Dump for school, and then the history teacher gave me a book by Isaac Asimov, which I then read, which he then said to me is a degree level book to read to understand it. And what he found stunning was, he goes, you actually understand the concept of what they're talking about. So for me, it's different levels. So give me an English book, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm serious. It doesn't make sense at all. Give me a science book, 100 more science, and then my brain takes over and stuff. And then for me, one of the things people also about moving forward is you need to make sure you have something you love to do. People say they do. If you ask them, Julie, and say, what do you love doing? And they'll go, oh, I might read. You either read or you don't read. You either watch movies, you don't watch movies. It doesn't matter what I was always taught. It doesn't matter what you read. Just because you don't read Shakespeare doesn't mean you're not an intellectual. That's their view of them. Okay. If it doesn't, you don't need to like a Van Gogh to like art. If you like watching Love Island, watch Love Island. It makes you happy. Do it. That's the key as well. I found, I won't let anyone stop me doing, again, you play too many video games. That's your opinion. I'm still going to play them, and that's the way you've got to make sure that with life, if you don't put yourself first, you can't put your family first. That sounds an odd statement, but you can't.
No. And that's a fantastic segue, actually. I love that. Thanks very much, Rob. That wasn't planned either. But that's the thing. That's what I found when I work with my clients, right? It was about, everything goes back to looking after yourself. Absolutely. But we have to be mindful of, some of those examples, like, gaming and stuff like that. That's fine in moderation, right? You still got to make sure that you got the rest of the balance of it. But absolutely, it's about, when we're happy, we're getting dopamine hits into our body, and that keeps us going. That keeps us happy. But what we tend to do is not put ourselves first, especially when you're a parent and everybody else comes first. And that's when we start suffering then. And it is the old plane analogy, isn't it? Put your mask on first before you help anyone else. I always quote that because I really like that, because it's so true. But in my group program, we literally look at that. It's about going from self-neglect to respecting ourselves, right? And it's about learning all about the power of the mind, and about how we have our limiting beliefs, and why we don't put ourselves first normally is because we don't feel we're good enough. or there's some limiting belief there that stops us from putting ourselves first. Or it's, well, I'm too busy being busy, I'm too busy running around doing everything for everybody else, I haven't got time for me, so therefore I'm not really eating properly, I'm not exercising properly, I'm not taking time out for myself. And then that goes into the cycle of, you know, having physical conditions then, because it's impacting your body, physical and psychological, sorry. So then it's impacting the whole of your body. So actually, when we start putting ourselves first, that's when the magic can start happening, because then we get that balance and then we become the complete healthy person that we all deserve to be.
Oh, definitely. Because again, it's society. Society tells you what it thinks is best for you, not knowing what's best for you. You know, it's always been this, you know, status quo. You need to do this, get this, go to college, get this done, do this, buy a house, do this, and it's restricting people's beliefs, because they're then following a pattern, what's being set for them by somebody else, not living their own lives and going for it. You know, there's nothing worse than regret. Thinking when you're 8 years old, thinking, I should have done that, I could have done that. No, what you should be saying is, I did that, and I've done
it might not have worked, but I tried it.
Exactly.
And this is what I learned from it.
You know, you have to, you have to try. It's like, you know, when I went from being an engineer to running my own business, that was another major leap, because again, I was told not to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I was not to do it. I ended up buying a company called D-Skins from the Americans, guys, which cost a lot of money. And I was told, I think, what's the words other people, mad, lunacy, you know, getting above your station, you know, you can't do that. And I bought this company and I turned it into a multi-million-pound company, and then the recession kicked in. You can't allow for these things, you know, it's just the way things go. And again, it went from being successful to then being unsuccessful. But I didn't see it as unsuccessful, because I knew I've done it once, I can do it again. Correct. Okay, that's the key. And if you know that, and I'll talk to anyone out there who's looking at changing their life, starting a business. Okay, the only thing that's going to make you fail is you by not starting. Once you haven't started, you've already failed before you've started. Okay, so if that's the case, why not try? You know, what's the worst thing can happen? The worst thing can happen is you end up doing what you're doing. The best that can happen is you have a business you run, you enjoy yourself. You know, you're not being beholden to other people to do what they want you to do. You know, you do it when you want to do it. And that, I think,
exactly. And I 100% agree with that. And unfortunately, I would love to talk about that more now, but we're running out of time, right? But do you want to just tell everybody what you are doing? So what is your business right now?
Business right now is, we do obviously software, mobile apps and websites, predominantly software for companies that are currently using various digital systems that aren't combined or are still using paper. We will literally streamline down your business, saving you time and money, and hoping you know, and just helping you grow. That's the idea. Most of us use third-party systems that just don't fit. You know, and what we do is we'll come and have a look, and we'll purpose build your own system for you from the ground up. So it won't be something that sort of works. Again, it's like life. We will make it for you, not what society's telling you should be using yourself. And that's the key. We also run a weekly networking meeting called the Kofi Business Network. That's COFI. And we get entrepreneurs, business owners, Julie themselves, to come on. And we have people like Julie on, who will basically come along and give us a hand and do a talk for us. And we also give people advice. And the main thing about a network is, a proper network, when it works well, each business helps the other business, you will grow. You know, and also you're talking to like-minded people that are going to give you positive feedback, not negative feedback, which again is fundamental to growing.
And we met actually in a network, like a big business goal circle, didn't we, where it's all full of entrepreneurs, where everyone's like-minded. And I also have that with my therapy training as well. So I've got 2 amazing groups that I'm part of, and that is so important, because it's about, that's how you meet people. And like you say, you can network and you can help each other out. And you get to doing these interviews has been great as well, because when I get the guest on, I have time with them a little bit beforehand. And some of them I know, some of them I don't know that well at all. And actually, it's a good opportunity to find out a bit more about what each other does. And, you know, to get that little bit of visibility as well, isn't it? I mean, when we know we're not going to be streamed across millions and millions of people, but it doesn't matter. It gives us that exposure. It gives us that confidence to actually put ourselves out there, because a lot of people don't do that. And we have to remind ourselves that we are kind of, it goes back to your story really about being kind of out there and out of the mold, because there aren't that many people that put themselves out there like we're doing and go for it, because it does take courage and it does take real strong beliefs, doesn't it? And that's why we all have to invest in ourselves, because if we didn't, we would just fall flat on our face. Like, you know, like your story and your job, if you had been a different person, you wouldn't have picked yourself up. God knows what you'd be doing now, right? But you did. You went, I'm not having this. I'm getting up, because you had that drilled into you that I'm better than this. I can do whatever I set my mind to. I can, rather than I can't. And I think that's a really good way to sort of end this, really, that anyone can do what they want. You might not be able to do it by yourself. So if you need help with anything psychological or physical, come and see me. If you need any help with your computer systems and getting your business up and running in that sense, give Rob a shout. So how can people get hold of you, Rob?
The best thing is go to digitalsolutions.help. Okay, simple as that, and go for that. And one more thing to say, Julie, is remember this, guys. Elon Musk started like us.
Yeah, there you go. And on that microphone drop, thank you so much, Rob, for coming on. And I hope people have enjoyed this. Anyone watching it on playback, by all means, reach out to us, comment, do what you need to do to get our attention, only a nice attention, obviously. And this interview will be going up on my YouTube channel, Millieside Therapy and Coaching, where you'll find this amazing interview and many more, but also the interviews that I've done with my clients, and then short client video testimonials too, and some other educational videos there. So please go over there, Millieside Therapy and Coaching, and subscribe and like. Excuse me, my voice has decided to leave me behind. But thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you again with another amazing guest for you. See you next time.
Bye.